I was ready for the week to be over. Long meetings, sleepless nights, too many transfers, and severe jet lag all led to me being very tired. Even when I was young, a week like that would be tiring. But at 48 years old, it made me regret some of my life decisions. Thank God that, unlike the good old days, I only have to travel occasionally. When I opened the door to my house, I hoped that the house would smell like dinner was cooking, and that perhaps I would receive a welcome kiss from Samantha, my wife of almost 25 years. The first would be commonplace, the second a little less so, but neither one nor the other awaited me. The house was dark, the only lights were in the hallway and the kitchen. "Sam," I called her, hanging up my coat and placing my luggage on the floor in the foyer. "I am in the kitchen." Her voice sounded tense, as if she was angry or crying. When I walked into the kitchen and found her sitting in our little breakfast nook, I knew very clearly that it was both. My wife's brown eyes were red and puffy, but filled with a fierce light. Her usually flawless brown hair was disheveled, and her ponytail in strands that had strayed from it resembled a slowly unraveling rope. All this spoke about the kind of conversation we were about to have, but the final detail was the final detail. On the table in front of her were 2 manila envelopes. "Kyle, we need to talk. I'm too tired to put up with any nonsense, but sooner or later, this will have to be dealt with." Sitting down on the chair opposite her, I said wearily, "Certainly. About what?" Samantha handed me one of the envelopes without a word. Inside was a selection of photographs. Despite the poor quality, they said a lot. Here I am having dinner with a gorgeous blonde a little older than me, the two of us holding hands while walking down the street. She and I are in a passionate embrace in front of the apartment door, my hand sliding up under her tight red mini dress to squeeze her almost bare ass. The timestamps on the photos skipped to the next morning. We said goodbye, and I squeezed her small, perky breasts one last time through the negligee she wore to see me off. I look a little regretful in the last picture, but it's clear that I'm disappointed that I'm leaving rather than blaming myself for what I did inside. In an even, almost pleasant voice, I asked, "Where did you get them? What does it matter?" There was no reciprocity in her tone, not even an approximation of congeniality. She's outraged, and I'm a little curious about what upsets her the most. The fact that I changed, the fact that my first response was a question about the source of her information, or the fact that I didn't seem the least bit bothered. With a wave of my hand, I threw the evidence of my betrayal back onto the table. "Well, mainly because they are not very good. Jenna looks much sexier in person and likes to leave the blinds slightly open when we make love. Any decent private detective could—" "What is wrong with you?" Now tears were mixed with rage. I shrugged. "I don't know what to do. Sue me." "Oh wait, that's what you were planning on, right? After all, I'm guessing the other envelope contains the divorce papers." Sam began to sob. "What the fuck, Kyle? Is this a joke to you? I don't think everything turned out the way she wanted. It's funny how people can have such different expectations depending on what facts they have and what they don't." "Oh no, not at all. I'm sure it's tearing you apart. It's a terrible feeling, I know." Leaning forward, I made a particularly unpleasant grimace at her. "Personally, it just killed me then." "What?" She changed her tone slightly. The wind had not yet left her sails, but had already begun to change. "Well, you know, when you cheated on me, or at least when I found out about it." Samantha's face went limp for a moment, still dripping with glistening streams of salt water. New hesitation followed the sudden realization that what she knew, or even what she could prove, did not matter. It's always about what exactly I know, and I know almost everything. Well, that's all that really matters anyway. My wife began to stutter. I, what is I, Sam? I didn't cheat. I do not understand what you're saying. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm sorry. Which I did you want to use? Oh, I know. I shouldn't have had sex with Ronnie Perkins. Is it so? You knew? Her voice was choked, and I couldn't help but laugh. There was betrayal in her voice, even more so than when I first sat down opposite her. "Stop laughing at me! You knew! Wiping a tear from my eye, I managed to switch from laughing to giggling. Not right away. Not when you did. Not even for the 4 months you slept with him. And not immediately after you stopped. Not even for a year after that. I would say that you hid everything well, but you didn't. I just didn't look. Now it was my turn to declare betrayal, and my finger pointed angrily in her direction. Because I trusted you, because we always agreed that the most important thing in marriage, more important than fidelity, trust, or even love, is honesty. That none of this will happen if we don't always tell each other the truth about important things, no matter how painful it may be. Sam turned away so quickly that my words could have been called a slap in the face. Shaking my head, I continued. But when I found out Matt was a freshman in college and Riley had just turned 12, I didn't want to ruin their lives. My laughter went from self-deprecation to outright disgust. No, that's not entirely true. God, how easy it has become to lie to you. I can't stand it. I hate that I can lie to my wife, and I hate that I can do it so easily just because I know how long she has been lying to me. The truth is, I didn't want to be a part-time dad, so I resigned myself to knowing everything. I was desperately hoping that maybe you would eventually remember how important honesty is in a marriage. Did you even realize how frankly, openly unhappy I had been for months? Or did you not care about me at all by then? She croaked, "Don't care. I've always loved you. Go to hell right now." This was said evenly and without any affect. You can't do this to someone you love, or at least someone for whom you have strong feelings. Her eyes returned to me. Don't give a damn. Really don't care. I made a mistake, you know? I was lonely and he was charismatic and yes. Oh, my husband is away all the time because he has to work. Oh, I'm so lonely. Oh, it's so boring when the kids are at school. Stop mocking me, I snorted. Oh, sorry, I was too dismissive? How rude of me. Well, I mean, you haven't treated me with contempt for 10 years, but I didn't relate. She was trying to gain momentum. To hell, let him rant to himself. I already knew who would win. Neither of us. But by the time this is all over, I'll have a lot less to lose. I made a mistake. Yes, I was lonely, I was bored, I was unhappy. I shouldn't have cheated, but it wasn't out of contempt. Sam's shoulders slumped, and the energy that had animated her seemed to be gone again. I turned out to be weak, and I know it. I know, and I'm very sorry. Seeing that, she at least paused. And oh, how it disappointed me, how I wanted a fight after so many years and all her lies. I continued to lay out her mistakes, trying to bring my wife out of her state of useless remorse and self-pity. Let's leave aside the question of whether the betrayal was contemptuous. I say that I was, and I am, the offended party. Smiling widely, I waved my hand at the photographs of my young mistress. Well, I was then. Maybe not so much now. But what about hiding it from me? Don't let me decide what I want to do after you cheated on me. Are you saying that this was an attitude towards me with respect? Indeed? Sam was breathing heavily, whether from fear, anger, or panic, I'm not sure. It wasn't disrespectful or even dishonest. I loved you. Please, love. It wasn't. I already ruined everything. I didn't want to make things worse and cause you more pain. I never intended to do this again, and I did everything I could to make it up to you. Except treat me like a fucking adult. Or even, I laughed. No, not even like an adult. Just as a person. Like a real person. Someone you respect so much that I drummed my fingers on the table. Remember when Riley broke that vase? She was what? 6. 5. Sam rubbed her arm, looking to the side. She knew where this was going, and she didn't like it. Exactly. 5. And then she tried to hide it from us. What did she get into the most trouble for? For the cover-up, right? And guess what? She screamed and cried and said it wasn't fair. But you told her, that good people admit their mistakes, no matter the consequences to themselves. It's not the same thing. Refuting my wife's words, throwing aside her defense, I continued. Do you remember how proud we were of her after she had that accident when she was 16 years old? Riley had all the options. It was dark. The streets were slippery. Someone might have had their headlights on. She could tell us 100 lies and go unpunished. But no, our daughter remembered the lesson that you taught her and admitted that she was distracted by the phone. She accepted the punishment without complaint. I was so proud of her that she learned the lessons you taught her, that she did the right thing. I leaned forward over the table again, pointing an accusing finger. Notes. You couldn't do it. You couldn't even be as responsible and honest as a 16-year-old girl. Everything was different. It wasn't easy. It wouldn't have been easy if I had to face the consequences. You would have gotten hurt, and then the children might have been dragged into this if we hadn't been able to. She sighed. If you couldn't forgive me, I don't think we'll ever know. But here's something I know. I began to list, bending my fingers. First, you say you were bored, but it was you who wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, even when the children went to school. This is on your conscience. You agreed to this, only because you wanted it. I wouldn't mind. No, I'd be happy if you went back to work. We could use your money and I could cut back on my job. I could be home. This leads to the second point. You were lonely. So join the fucking club. You have children. You have girlfriends. Damn, your family lives nearby. Being on the road, I was alone all the time. I was so desperately lonely that sometimes I wanted to cry. But I still didn't cheat on you with anyone. I was faithful. And besides, I was on the road only because of the first point. You didn't want to work, is not? Shut up, I'm not finished. I've waited 8 fucking years to speak up. You fallen traitorous woman, and you'll damn well listen to me. Sam winced. I had never called her names before and rarely raised my voice to anyone. Point 3. Unhappy. Were you fucking miserable? I worked my ass off. My wife moved away from me. I hardly saw my children. And all this was not of my will. I had to support my family because I was the only one who was going to do it. All of this. It's because you want to be a Susie housewife. All. Samantha looked at the table. I know, I was selfish. I should have realized that it hurt you as much as it hurt me. Even more. But I had tunnel vision. I listened to the wrong ones. That worthless bitch Jeannie, right? Her idiot friend Sam had been with her since school. Divorced 3 times. For some reason, all the divorces were not her fault, although she cheated on at least 2 people. She always claimed that she cheated only after everything fell apart. Sam didn't want to hear how implausible it was, at least not until Ginny didn't disappear from our lives shortly after my wife's affair. Sam nodded, displeased. I met Ronnie through her. She met him after her last divorce and said he was wonderful. Good listener. That's all she said I needed. Another person to listen to me. A man's opinion on everything. I only planned to talk to him. Sure, this is true. My wife's voice was quiet. Weak. Like herself. At first we just talked, but he convinced me that... She swallowed. It looks like you know what I did. I don't want to go into details. I knew. Not all the details, but enough that I don't feel the need to retell them at this table. At least for now. I've had almost 10 years to plan some sort of confrontation, and while there are some variables I can't account for, I now know the general direction we're heading. Yes, I know what you did. I turned away from her. I just don't know why, she said quietly. I told you why. No, you told me what you did, or at least enough of it. You told me what you felt, what led you to this, but I don't understand. I haven't cried because of her betrayal for a long time, but suddenly I felt a lump in my throat. I don't understand why you didn't come to me, didn't talk to me. If you were honest, even though the weight of the secret I had been carrying was finally lifted, my shoulders sagged. What a damn loss. I loved you so much. I don't know. I would try to figure it out. I would like to consult with you. And then, a sideways glance told me that Sam was watching me intently. If you told me everything, I can't promise that I could forgive. Been through. But I will try. I still loved you then. Tears started flowing from her eyes again. Then, not now? I nodded. She hissed, "Fuck you." Sorry? There was so much pain in the features of her face, so much rage and suffering in her gaze. You changed too, lied too. Fatigue was pressing on me, but the battle was not over yet. With a quick jerk of my neck, I straightened up again. I can last a few more rounds. I owe it to both of us. Only after you did it, Sam lost her temper, waving her arms. And this justifies everything? And you could come to me. You knew I did it, but you didn't say anything. You just went and fucked this blonde bitch. A quick verbal counterattack interrupted her barrage. She is not the first. What? She is not the first. Not even 10th. Sam was silent, just looking at me, flapping her mouth uselessly. I didn't knock her out, but she staggered. I stood up and moved towards the refrigerator, then looked at her. Beer, no answer. The caps were removed from 2 bottles, and I placed one in front of her and then took a long sip from the other. I found out about this a little over a year after your betrayal. Well, after you ended the affair anyway. So I guess about a year and a half after you broke your vow to me. Remember when we wanted to give your old iPad to Riley? A slight nod at last that didn't match the sickening realization that must have been creeping up on her. You haven't used it for a long time, so it was a good starter tablet for her. But first, it had to be cleaned. I chuckled as understanding dawned on her face, quickly followed by horror. Thank God I did it, for all of us. All that was missing was for her to learn about sex from your letters. That's when I found out everything. I took the tablet with me on trips. It was logical for me to deal with him. You've never been particularly tech-savvy, right? You didn't know that letters and messages remain on the tablet even after they're erased, unless you plug the tablet into the network after you do this. I bought you a new one for our anniversary, remember? She nodded sadly again. So yeah, there were all your emails to him, Ginny, and... I shook my head. At least I had a plan for a novel. When did it start? When did it end? Why did it end? And all that. And as soon as I synchronized the tablet with your account again, after I saved all these incriminating messages in a safe place, Sam winced. I saw that you deleted all the evidence of your affair. No new ones have appeared either, but that doesn't mean anything. You could just get smarter. You've already cheated once. Why don't you cheat again? Or maybe you've done this before. Maybe Ronnie isn't the first to cuckold me. That was the only time. Her voice was muffled. Was he in pain for himself or for me? From the realization of how long have I lived with the knowledge of what she did? I'd like to think it's more likely the latter, but recent evidence suggests it's more likely the former. Or maybe it's a mixture of both. I don't think Sam is truly evil, just weak, spoiled, and dishonest. Now I know it. By the time... I sighed. By the time I found out, our finances were doing better. Not good enough that I could hire a detective, but good enough that I could be home a little more often if I wanted to. I was going to surprise you after the trip, during which I found out everything. I looked away. But when I found out what you did, it was the last thing I wanted. By that time, I was already used to not being around children. I couldn't stand it. But I got used to it. And I knew I wanted to have as little to do with you as possible, so I was able to prioritize when I was home. I pursed my lips, trying to swallow the lump that had formed in my throat again. I was in complete disarray for almost the entire trip. All the time I wasn't working, I was either crying or drinking, or he drank and cried. It's a miracle I didn't lose those clients. A grin appeared. But damn, I traveled more than anyone else on my team. I am the best salesman, and all it cost me was my marriage. Not necessarily, but you wanted it. I did not want this, she sobbed angrily. I wanted you to be home. I wanted you to be with us, with me. But not enough to do anything productive. It's not enough to tell me how unhappy you are, so much so that you're ready to cheat with the first person who's willing to listen to your complaints. Not enough to find a job on your own. She started to speak, but I brushed off her words. It does not matter. What happened, happened. You can't fix this, and I don't want to listen to your excuses. This is about me now, Sam. About what I did. What did I do because of what you did? You cheated with another man. Not just once, not through a drunken mistake. No, as far as I can tell, you had sex with him at least 30 times in 4 months. Wait a minute, no. This is the number of times you were with him. But how many times you actually had sex, I have no idea. 50, 100, more. I shook my head. Doesn't matter. You did it. You did it voluntarily, and you did it repeatedly. I knew I couldn't be around you any more than I had to. That is why, for some time, I suddenly started traveling, when before that I tried to refuse them. Do you remember? Oh, just a little more, and then I can be at home more often. In its own way, it was true. Not because it was supposed to strengthen my position. I have already strengthened it. This was so that I would have all the time plan, and then, for some time, come to terms with the fact that you are nearby. Condensation from my beer accumulated on the table, forming a ring. I probably should have used a stand, but I didn't care what happened to it. It doesn't look like he'll be mine for long. At first, I tried to understand if there was any way to stay with you, how I could approach you with evidence, but I didn't see a way. You've been lying to me all this time, and getting you to confess is not the same as confessing yourself. And then I thought about divorce. I gestured to the unopened envelope. Just like you, I think it took me longer than you. I wonder why. Shaking my head, I continued. Anyway, I thought of everything, and at best, I lived in a small, shitty apartment, saw the kids every weekend, and gave you money to have sex with whoever you wanted. I'm not a slut. I made a mistake. Samantha finally found her voice. She needn't have worried. I was going to tell my story. I already knew her story longer than I would have liked. Finally, she will hear mine. I don't care. That silenced her again. It doesn't matter whether you're a fallen woman or not. As soon as you become a divorcee, you would have to find a job to have extra income. And within, 6 months? In a maximum of a year, you would have found yourself a new guy, perhaps in the same place where you worked. You are attractive now, but then you were beautiful. So I'd have to pay a ton of money to not see my kids, fund you to have sex with another guy, and be miserable alone. This did not happen. We've already found out that you don't know a damn thing about electronics. I took a look at the cloud backups of your devices. I created them for you, and I doubt that you even knew about their existence. I have not found any evidence of an earlier or later novel. Back then, it was easy to install keyloggers and trackers on all your shit. Hell, I don't think you even know how to turn off Find My Phone. And, as far as I can tell, you never cheated on me again. Of course, I didn't cheat. I felt so guilty about this. I rolled my eyes. And how do I know this? For God's sake, Sam, I even took a paternity test to make sure the kids were even mine. They are so similar to you that I couldn't even be sure of it, as soon as I found out that you had cheated. The mother of my children looked shocked and outraged, which made me happy. Not so much because I wanted her to feel bad, although that was certainly a bonus at the time, but because her reaction was sincere. This look said that she once loved me. Such pain, the understanding that a loved one could think such terrible things about you, is difficult to fake. Now you understand? Do you understand how much you offended me? I know you think you know how much it hurts with all your photos, but you have no idea. I'm stuck with a woman who cheated on me, who lied to me, who I don't trust anymore. My life is connected with her life, at least if I want to live well, and I have to hide my anger, my indignation, and my sadness. I'm stuck in a box. I have to lie to everyone because of what you did. And the worst thing? I still loved you. If I didn't love you, everything would be simple. I could treat you like that manager I hate, or like some other irritant I have to put up with. But I have to suppress my anger and find a way to move on, knowing that the woman I loved more than anyone in the world stabbed me in the back. And that's what I did. I found a way to deal with it. She grinned. Having other women? You're a damn hypocrite. Not right away, no. My bottle is empty. I thought about getting another beer, but realized that I would be driving soon, so I decided to drink a soda. Sam didn't touch hers. At first, I tried to find a way to channel my rage into something productive. My sales were growing. I thought of every extra dollar I earned as a chance to be free from you. But at night, he was still alone with his thoughts. Drinking was not a long-term solution. But do you know what almost every hotel has? Gym. Sam's eyebrows knit together. So that's why you got in shape? I thought you wanted... Yes. I know what you were thinking. I told you a lot of nonsense. I sighed. Okay, not all of this is true. I really wanted to be in better shape to keep up with the kids. But mostly, I needed something to do with my anger. And I had a lot of anger. Sorry. I wish I knew this. Samantha took my hand, her expression compassionate. I pulled my hand away as if from a snake. The time for loving reconciliation has passed. She took care of it. No need. Sam's hand hovered over the tabletop, wondering if she should continue. Something in my eyes or my body language told her this was a bad idea. I would never hurt her, but I would definitely get up and leave. While my wife wrapped her arms around herself, I continued my story. No, I didn't intend to cheat on you. This thought only occurred to me 5 or 6 months later. I didn't have many trips back then, remember? But I was still so unhappy. It was on one of these trips that I spent the first night with another woman since you and I got married. You changed. Call it in your own words. I didn't cheat. Cheating would mean that I was breaking the rules of our marriage.